Hello and welcome back to our RTS series. In this episode we're going to work on our menus for our building units. So at the moment it's a static menu. We need to change that to be dynamic so it can be changed per building type. So let's go into our base menu UI, and at the moment it is a static menu like this. I'm going to reposition that to be anchored to the bottom here. So I've anchored it here to the bottom like so. I'm going to change the alignment to be 0.5 in the X and 1 in the Y, and that will push the pivot of the whole anchor to the bottom middle here. So if I change the position here to 0 and Y to 0, it looks like this. It does increase the size of the X here to about 800, but that can be changed based upon whatever you decide to do. And this is still a scroll box, so if it does overflow, it will scroll just fine. So let's go through how this is going to work. So our building base menu here needs to have an array of classes it needs to know to build cards for. So make a variable, and that'll be building menu contents. And this is going to be of the class of unit base class reference. We're then going to go to the pre-construct event, drag out, sorry, not drag that out yet, we've got to make it an array. Click on it, make it an array, then drag it out to get, and then we're going to do a for each loop. And for each item inside that array, it's going to build a card. So we're going to go create widget, and we're going to set the UI card as the option. Now when you do that, you want the building class to be available as exposed on spawn. If it doesn't appear here, just go to UI card, click on the building class variable, and make sure it's ticked to be exposed on spawn. Then go back to your base menu and it should be here. If it still doesn't show, just right click and refresh it, and then it should appear. So the building class is going to come from the array element. I'm going to drag that down, and then we need to add this to our card menu. So we've got our card menu here on the left hand side, do get, and then we're going to do add child to it, connect that up, and then plug in the return value from your create widget into the content of the add child. That'll slot that into that scroll box just fine. Now we've got that, we don't want to use any of our cards here. So let's delete them. Now designer view, and delete, and hit compile. So the pre-construct will set it up and fill up the contents. Then the construct event will go through each of those contents and create a cast to and binding for that build command. Hit save, and let's go back to our menus. So let's go on to our unit for this. Let's go to units and go to unit building base. And on here we need to set up the base menu UI to have that building menu contents variable visible. I feel like I'm saying building units a lot. But anyway, we go to our create base menu UI widget. If you can't find it, just look around. It'll be part of the on clicked event. And in there we need to set this class up with a variable. So let's go back to our base menu UI and go to the graph and make the building menu contents editable and exposed on spawn. Compile and save that, go back to your building base, then just refresh this node here to see that building menu contents. We want to make that a variable and hit compile. So on your settings here for building base, we can go to class defaults, not class defaults, sorry, class defaults. You'll see building menu contents, and here we can add each of the buildings that we want to be part of the menu. So for example, the barracks, where's the barracks? There it is. Then also the farm, and also a church. Okay, and hit compile and save. So it'll be the default setting that we have for all our buildings. So if I go to my barracks, then go to the class defaults of this, And you'll see those options appear there again. We're just going to change them to different things. So this would be infantry and a worker. I can delete the other one. Okay. Hit compile and save that. And let's see that in action. So if I push play now, place the building, click on here, and there are my barracks, farm and church. Let's collect some materials so I can see the other one. Get some wood. And that'll deliver 10 wood back to our base. Okay, and then I'm going to direct them to this stone here. To collect some stone for our barracks. Okay, when they do that, click on here, barracks, spawn the barracks building, click on here, and you can see we now have different options to build. If I click on this at the moment, it won't do nothing. That's what we're going to work on now. So when we go to spawn an infantry, now that's a bit different based on the fact that it's an infantry rather than a building. So you're not placing it, it's just going to spawn it outside of the building. So when we click on UI card, let's go back to that. On here we have the event to handle the clicked build command, building class, and then we want to know here spawn actor. So at the moment it's going to spawn it at 000, which is not what we want, based on whether or not it is infantry or otherwise. So we need to be able to find a way to determine whether this is infantry or is of a building, like an actual building. So if I take this and move this aside here, and what I can do with this is I can see if this is a child of, and do unit building base. So the thing I want to build, is it of a building base type or one of its children? And if it is, then it'll do like as normal. However, what we want to do differently is if it is a infantry. So that won't tick this because they use a different base. So to demonstrate that, if I go to the units here and then go to say the barracks, you can see the barracks belongs to unit building base, whereas the infantry just belong to unit base. So it's different. So they need to inherit from not inherit from unit building base. Okay, so we understand that. That's going to come down to false now when we click on unit infantry. And what we're going to do is another spawn actor. So I'm going to do exactly the same thing. Put that down here. The false. And the class is going to be exactly the same again there. But this time the transform is going to be very different. And this can be based upon the rally flag of the object that we are trying to build from. So we need to know how that which building we actually are on, and then also find its rally point. Now the rally point is going to be part of the building base. So we can go to unit building base, to viewport here, and I'm just going to add here a scene component, and this would be the rally point, and we'll move that just outside the building by default. And I'm going to give it another component so we can see it clearly in game as well. So I'm going to give it a billboard so we can easily identify it when we need to. There we go. So we should be able to see that when we place it around the map. So we need to find that rally point. At the moment, our base menu UI does not know whose building we are actually on. When we spawn it, that's something we want to know. On the variables, let's do building base, and that'd be a type of building, unit building base. And that'd be an object reference in this case. And it's using an object reference because it's already something that's spawned in the world that we need to be able to access some parts of. So we've got building base, and then we're going to drag that out here. And from there, we can get the rally point and get its location. Get world location. And there we are. Now spawn the actor, and that's it. So once it's done that, we need to be able to set that building base. So make that editable and expose on spawn. Compile and save. Then we go to unit building base and go to the on clicked event. And when we build our base menu UI, if I refresh this again, we now got the option for building base, and that would be self. And because it's all in building base, we do not have to do this again for the barracks or the farm or anything like that. It will be all the same. Okay, so let's see how that looks in the game. So just to speed things up a little bit, I'm going to give myself some materials to get started. So let's go in here. Sorry, not on there. Sorry, the game mode is what I want it. Where is it? There we go. I'm gonna give myself some starting wood and stone so we can demonstrate this. Okay, compile, and let's go. Go click on here, create a barracks, and spawn inventory. Now, something you may notice that it doesn't actually spawn is a problem. So the problem is that because you're trying to spawn at a specific location, it may find that that location isn't a valid place to put something. So what we need to do is tell our base menu UI to not just spawn it at the world location of the rally point, but to also use that point to get a random point in navigable radius. Now search a radius of like say 100, maybe 150. And then that'll be the location it gets, and that'll force it to find somewhere where the AI can work. Now when you also do spawn AI, you do need to make sure that they are possessed as well, otherwise you won't be able to move them. So just a quick point on that, if you go to the units, go to, let's say, unit infantry, you want to set in the class defaults the auto possess AI to be placed in world or spawned. That means the AI controller will take control of it if you spawn it or you place it in the world manually. And we do that the same for the worker as well. So we just go down and change that to placed in world or spawned. And you do it for all the inventory that is going to have AI that can move around. So hit play. And barracks. Infantry. Now you see they're spawning in. I can now select that unit and move them. And create worker who can now go to work. Okay. And he'll collect the wood and do his job. So the last thing we're going to do is we're going to add a timer to the spawning of infantry units and other movable units. So the way this is going to work is going to change the way our spawning currently works on our menu and put it onto the barracks itself, because the barracks need to know if they're currently building something or they're not. So let's first of all go into our barracks, or no, not barracks, our building base, sorry, and we're going to create a custom event in here. In this event we're going to call here build unit, and the build unit is going to have a input. That's going to be unit base class reference. We put in here unit class, and this will start a timer. So we're going to do set timer by event, and what we're going to do with that event, we're going to drag this down and do a custom event, and this will be spawn unit. And that unit that's going to be spawned is going to be this unit class here. So we do need to set this as a variable. So just promote it to variable, and then we go current build class and plug that in. between there and there. And then on the spawn unit, we're going to do exactly what we've done on our base menu. We're just going to take all this stuff here. Then take the rally point because it already exists on the building. And we're going to, oh, not there. Base, building base, there it is. And put it on here instead. So plug that in. And we're going to drag in our current build class into it. Okay. And the world location is going to come from the rally point. Okay, so you've got rally point, get world location, find the random point on the nav mesh, and then set that to the transform of the spawn actor. And this time that's set here is going to be the build time. So I'll make that a variable here and call it build time. And that's going to be set to a float. And we'll plug that into build time. Okay. Now, one thing we do want to do is make it so you can't build multiple units at the same time or like overtake them. So if I click it once, I don't want to click another one to basically restart the timer. It should have to wait until the next time. So when I got the return value after the set timer, I'm going to promote that to a variable. This is so I can then test to see if it is currently building still. So I've called it build timer. And then at the start of this build unit here, we're going to handle the build timer of this. So drag out build timer and check to see if it is valid. Put that into a branch. And if it's not valid, goes into false, we'll go into current build class and so forth. And when it spawns a unit, we're going to take the build timer and just clear and invalidate it. So it's all nice and clean, ready for the next selection. Okay, once done that, compile it and make sure you change your build time to something. I've changed mine to 3 seconds. And then we need to go back to the base menu UI. So rather than doing this spawn actor stuff, we're going to just delete this. And instead we're going to take the building base reference out and tell it to build unit. And plug that into the false. The unit class will be from there. Compile and save that. So if we were to test this out now, we should see a slight delay between it spawning when you click on the button to spawn inventory to actually spawning it. So click, wait, and there it is. Okay, away it goes. Click on here again, inventory, wait another 3 seconds, and then they spawn. At the moment you'll notice it doesn't actually take away any resources. You notice it's meant to take away 2 wood. So let's go through and get that added on there before we wrap up. So on our building base, if you look at our place building, you can see how it's working for our building. And it's going to work pretty much the exact same way but for your units. So we're going to take all of this and copy it. And I'm going to copy it and place it at the end of the spawn unit custom event. So I'm going to do that here. Plug that in. Now obviously the wood cost and stone cost aren't going to come from this building in particular. Instead they're going to come from the individual unit. So I'm going to delete the wood cost here, delete the stone cost here, and then drag out my return value here and do wood cost and get stone cost. So now I can plug these into those calculations. And there we go. So now when I spawn units from my barracks, wait 3 seconds and I should see my resources go down as well. There we go. Right, worker. There you have it. Now I can spawn as many units as I have resources for. Perfect. Thanks very much for watching. In the next episode, we'll actually add some animations to these guys, get them walking about, and other bits and bobs before we go on to do the full AI for combat. So if you want to watch the next episode right now, head over to patreon.com/Ryan Laley. We can watch all of my videos before anyone else from just $1 a month. Thank you to all my patrons and YouTube members for their continued support. It really is amazing. Can't thank you enough. Thanks again for watching. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you all next time. Bye everyone.